Imagine you're just going about your day, right? You open your inbox, and there's a message from your boss.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, it's incredibly brief. It just says, let's chat at 3. Or, maybe you're having dinner with a friend, and they suddenly go quiet for just like a second too long.
Just a fraction of a millisecond.
Exactly. And in that fraction of a millisecond, your stomach drops, your chest physically tightens up, your heart rate spikes.
And panic sets in.
Right. And before you even realize what you're doing, you find yourself completely overreacting. Like maybe you immediately start drafting this defensive 5-paragraph email explaining your recent work.
Or you just start nervously babbling of dinner to fill that silence.
Yes. And then an hour later, you're sitting there, the panic finally subsides, and you think, why on earth did I just do that?
It feels incredibly disorienting, doesn't it? Because, in your conscious mind, you're just responding to an email or a brief silence.
But biologically, it's a whole different story.
Biologically, you are responding to a ghost. You're literally being ambushed by your own nervous system.
And uncovering that ambush is basically our entire mission today. So welcome to our deep dive into a profoundly shifting set of sources, anchored by a really fascinating text called The Thoughts Under the Noise.
It's a brilliant piece of work.
It really is. For everyone listening, we're going to pull back the curtain on this hidden layer of experience that we constantly, every single day, mistake for our own personality. Or, our deliberate choices.
Right. The goal here is to map out the exact mechanics of those intense moments of overreaction.
And ultimately, to figure out how to access your actual, authentic thoughts beneath all that internal static.
Because the foundational premise of this material is that most of us are walking around completely submerged in a loud, constant stream of reaction. Habit, self-justification, compulsion, all of it.
And the text refers to all of that as the noise.
Exactly. The noise. And this noise is so pervasive, so loud, that it actively drowns out your authentic impulses. But our goal today isn't to declare war on that noise.
Right, we're not aggressively trying to silence it.
No, not at all. The goal is to finally understand its architecture so we can actually hear what lives beneath it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if we want to understand this noise, we have to figure out who installed these massive internal speakers in the first place, right?
We have to go back to the source.
Yeah, and to do that, the source material takes us all the way back to infancy.
It takes us to the very beginning. Human infants are, structurally speaking, designed learning systems.
You're sponges.
Completely. When an infant arrives in the world, they are totally helpless. They can't feed themselves. They can't run from danger. So their nervous system is heavily optimized to do just one thing.
Which is to absorb the patterns of their immediate environment.
Yes, and construct survival models from those patterns. The text uses this beautiful phrase for, it calls it the architecture of belonging.
The architecture of belonging. I love that. So survival for a human baby doesn't mean, having sharp claws or being able to run fast.
Right. It means figuring out how to belong to the giant people who hold the food.
Yeah, the caregivers.
Precisely. The infant body learns how to survive by figuring out how to secure that attachment. On a profound subverbal level, the infant is observing what gets me fed, what gets me held.
And on the flip side, what makes the big people angry.
Exactly. These early, deeply encoded programs about what constitutes safety, how to secure your own worth, how to identify danger, they are physically written into the nervous system.
And they don't just go away when you grow up.
No, they just keep running in the background all the way into your 30s, 40s, and beyond.
I think the most crucial detail here, the thing that really changes how you look at yourself, is when these programs are installed.
The timing is everything.
It really is. The text emphasizes that this programming happens long before we even have language, before we have a self-concept or the cognitive ability to say, hey, my dad is just having a bad day at work.
Because it happens pre-language, these programs don't live in our conscious thinking minds.
They live strictly in the tissue of the body. They live in your breath patterns, or, in how you tense your shoulders, or that reflexive narrowing of your vision when you feel threatened.
And that physical reality is exactly why a simple tone of voice can trigger such a massive reaction today.
Right, like your colleague getting a little short with you in a Zoom meeting.
Yes. That specific pitch or that facial expression triggers a cellular memory. Your body detects a threat pattern that was established before you could even speak a single word.
It makes me think of a smartphone. honestly. It's like your phone is running this background app that got downloaded a decade ago.
That's a great
You
analogy.
completely forgot it was there. You never intentionally open it, but it's constantly running location services, constantly scanning for Wi-Fi, and just actively draining your battery
Right.
while your screen is totally off.
It's an excellent way to conceptualize it because the authors insist that unconscious programming is not some clinical metaphor.
It's literal.
It is a literal mechanical description of how early experience dictates automatic behavior in the present.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this a little bit
Go for it.
because if these bodily reflexes are just firing automatically the moment they detect a tone of voice, what happens to our free will? The text suggests that our conscious self-concept is often constructed after the fact,
Huh?
just to explain away the behavior.
It does suggest that, yes.
So are we really just biological meat machines inventing stories so we can call our reflexes choices? I mean, that sounds incredibly bleak.
Well, what's fascinating here is that the text embraces that exact existential friction. It argues that, yes, very often the conscious mind is basically just a PR department working overtime for the nervous system.
A PR department. Wow.
Right. Think about it. The automatic behavior happens, say, you aggressively over-explain yourself to a coworker. You did that because an ancient survival program told your body you were in danger of being misunderstood.
Which, to an infant, means being abandoned.
Exactly. But your conscious mind doesn't want to feel out of control, right? So it steps in a second later and says, oh, I'm not panicked. I'm just a very thorough communicator. I value clarity.
Oh, man. So the noise literally masquerades as our personality. We think this anxious, over-explaining static is just who we fundamentally are.
We mistake the survival tactic for the core self, and that leads to a really vital distinction in the text. If these programs were originally brilliant, highly adaptive survival mechanisms, why are they causing us so much suffering today?
Yeah, I mean, if they kept us alive, shouldn't we be thanking them?
We should, but we also have to distinguish between natural programs and unnatural programs.
Okay, break that down for you.
Natural programs are things like your lungs breathing or your immune system attacking a virus. Those are automatic, sure, but they rise from the body's indigenous intelligence. They've been refined over millions of years of evolution. They belong to your original design.
And the unnatural programs.
Unnatural programs are not born from the body's wisdom. They are born from its wounds.
From its wounds.
Yes. They are highly specific, adaptive responses that a young nervous system develops to survive conditions that were hostile or inappropriate to its nature.
The sources give some incredibly clear, though honestly somewhat heartbreaking, examples of this. It outlines conditions like emotional unavailability or an environment where a child's natural exuberance is actively punished.
Right.
It points out that a child who learns love is conditional will learn to perform. They become a human doing rather than a human being.
And the child who learns that displaying anger is dangerous, they'll learn to flatten their entire emotional landscape just to stay safe.
Just completely flatten it out. And my favorite example from the material, well, maybe favorite isn't the right word, but the most relatable one is a child who learns that having needs is a burden to their stressed out parents.
Ah, yes, the self-sufficiency program.
Exactly. That child learns to be completely self-sufficient. But it's a hollow self-sufficiency. It's the adult who insists on carrying like 15 heavy bags of groceries from the car in one trip.
Sweating, dropping things.
Getting secretly resentful, but absolutely refusing to just ask their partner for help.
That is the perfect modern manifestation of that program. And the text makes a real point not to judge those early adaptations. In a dysfunctional childhood home, learning to hide your needs was a stroke of genius.
Well, it's pure survival.
Exactly. But they are deemed unnatural because they run counter to the organism's inherent drive for connection and health. They are basically third-party software overriding the operating system.
Which perfectly explains why they drain our battery so much.
Yeah.
For everyone listening, if you want to know if you are currently running one of these unnatural programs, the text offers this brilliant diagnostic tool.
The resistance to presence.
Yes. It says the ultimate marker of an unnatural program is a resistance to presence. It's this subtle feeling of wrongness. I want you to think about those moments where you stop actually experiencing a situation and you start managing it.
When you're hyper-fixated on how everyone in the room is perceiving you rather than just being in the room.
Exactly. You're hovering above the room, managing the variables.
Because natural functions move toward life.
Right.
They move toward the present moment, toward intimacy, toward reality. Unnatural programs move away. They're fundamentally a withdrawal strategy, a way to protect the core by hiding it.
So we have these unnatural background apps draining our energy, pulling us out of our actual lives. The million-dollar question is, once we realize we are stuck in one of these loops, how do we force quit the app? How do we deal with the noise?
This brings us to the core practice the sources outline. It's called decontextualization.
Decontextualization. I mean, it sounds like something you'd read in a dry psychology journal, but the actual mechanics of it are deeply practical.
Very practical. The fundamental problem we are trying to solve is that the nervous system generalizes. It is a rapid pattern matching machine.
Right.
Evolutionarily, your nervous system is playing a numbers game. If you see a shadow in the grass and your brain assumes it's a tiger and makes you run, you survive.
Even if it's just a shadow, you look a little silly, but you're alive.
Exactly. That's a false positive. But a false negative, assuming a tiger is just a shadow, well, that kills you. So your brain is wired to constantly generate false positives to keep you safe.
It would rather you be anxious and alive than relaxed and eaten.
Exactly the mechanism. So today, it takes a current, entirely safe situation like that colleague being quiet on a Zoom call, and it pattern matches that silence to an original past danger.
Let's say the silence of an unpredictably volatile parent.
Yes. The amygdala doesn't know what year it is. It just detects a faint resemblance and immediately pulls the fire alarm. Decontextualization asks one radical, non-accusatory question. Where does this actually come from?
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text doesn't just leave us with a vague concept. It breaks the practice down into 3 distinct actionable movements. And the free movement is recognition.
Recognition in this context means clean noticing.
Clean noticing, meaning you don't judge yourself. You don't try to aggressively shove the panic down. You act as an internal witness and simply acknowledge, something is happening here. I am running a program.
Which, honestly, sounds nearly impossible when your bloodstream is flooded with cortisol.
No, it's incredibly difficult. It takes so much practice.
But it is the necessary first step to break the trance. Once you recognize it, the second movement is location. And it's really important to clarify here, this is not an intellectual exercise.
You aren't psychoanalyzing your childhood timeline.
No, you are finding the felt sense in your physical body.
You're asking, where in my body does this feel familiar?
Yes, because the body holds the memory much more clearly than the mind does. You might scan your body and notice a tight, prickly heat in the back of your neck, or a heavy, sinking feeling in your stomach.
And as you focus on that sensation, you often get this sudden, wordless knowing.
An atmosphere that washes over you, signaling, oh, this is old.
This is old. That's such a relieving thing to say to yourself in the moment. And that sets up the third movement, which is resituation.
This is the pivot.
This is where you internally return the emotional response to its original context. You look at the trigger in the present room, the quiet coworker, the short email, and you realize it is just a ghost.
The massive spike of anxiety you're feeling was entirely appropriate 20 years ago in a different house. But here, today, in this office, it's a ghost.
And we need to set expectations here.
Right.
Successfully moving through these 3 steps, recognizing, locating, and resituating, does not magically dissolve the physiological response.
Decontextualization is not an instant off switch. Your heart will likely still be hammering in your chest.
Wait, really? So I do all this mental heavy lifting, I find the ghost, and I'm still sitting there sweating.
You might be, yes. But the goal isn't to instantly neutralize the nervous system. The goal is to create a gap.
A gap.
A crucial sliver of space between the trigger and your behavioral reaction. You stop identifying with the program. You observe it instead of becoming it. And inside that tiny gap, a completely new choice becomes possible.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's explore that gap for a second. When we finally manage to recognize the noise as just noise, when we stop believing the panic, what does the true signal underneath it actually sound like?
The material calls this the thought under the noise. And it warns us not to expect a perfectly articulated sentence. Remember, these layers go deeper than language.
Because the programs were installed before we had words.
Exactly. So the authentic signal might simply be an inclination. It might be a physical pulling toward or away from something. It might be a deep old knowing that's been waiting patiently under decades of people-pleasing.
It could just be a fundamental need for rest that the infant originally couldn't verbalize.
I found a really powerful distinction in the reading to help us identify that true signal. It notes that authentic signals do not argue.
That is the ultimate litmus test, isn't it? The noise argues.
The noise justifies. The noise is that voice in your head rehearsing a phantom argument in the shower for 45 minutes.
We've all been there.
But the authentic signal simply presents itself. It doesn't need to be objectively right. It doesn't demand permission to exist. It doesn't perform for an audience. It just is.
Okay, I have to jump in with a major frustration here.
Uh-oh.
Because I've tried doing things like this, right? I can sit down, notice my triggers, and say, I overreact to my boss because of this dynamic with my dad. I understand the mechanism perfectly. I can hear the quiet signal underneath saying, I am safe, I just need a boundary. But the next time the boss emails me, my heart still races anyway.
Yep.
Intellectual understanding doesn't seem to stop the reflex. So if I do all this, am I fixed or not?
This raises a very important question, and it's one the text anticipates entirely. It dedicates a specific section to a concept called integration without bypassing.
Integration without bypassing.
It serves as a stark warning, particularly for folks who lean heavily into intellectual psychology or mindfulness. Decontextualization is not transcendence. Cognitive insight is fundamentally insufficient to rewire a nervous system.
So knowing why the engine is smoking doesn't actually fix the engine.
It does not. Think about the installation process. The original program wasn't installed through a lecture, right? An infant didn't read a book to learn how to survive.
No, they lived it.
The program was installed through embodied, relational, repeated physical experience over a span of years. Therefore, it can only be overwritten through that exact same medium.
We can't outthink the body. We have to out-experience it.
We need new relational data. This is what somatic integration is all about. It requires real-world experiences where the body is met differently in the present tense.
So you actually have to put yourself in the situation.
You do. The old pattern fires up, you feel the trigger, you feel the intense urge to over-explain yourself, but then, crucially, you choose to stay silent.
To use that gap.
Yes. And then this is the magic part. You do not receive the catastrophic negative response you unconsciously expected. The sky doesn't fall, the coworker doesn't abandon you. Your body absorbs the failure of its own grim prediction.
So the decontextualization practice just clears the brush. It gives you the compass pointing toward what you actually need.
But you still have to walk the path.
You have to go out into your actual relationships, risk the new behavior, and let your body realize that the tiger is actually just a shadow.
The nervous system demands proof. Hearing the thought under the noise is the beginning of the rewiring, not the end of it.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now as you head back into your week? I think the most beautiful takeaway from this entire deep dive is the perspective shift regarding all this internal static.
The noise, the overreactions, the frantic managing of everyone's emotions.
They are not your enemies.
We really are not.
The sources suggest that these unnatural programs deserve what they call a retrospective tenderness. I just can't get over that phrase. Retrospective tenderness.
It's beautiful.
It is a profound acknowledgement of how incredibly hard your young nervous system worked to keep you safe and connected in a world that was asking way too much of it.
It was a brilliant piece of engineering, doing the absolute best it could with a very limited set of tools.
So you don't have to fight the noise using force. You don't have to hate that anxious part of yourself. You dismantle it through accuracy by gently, repeatedly separating ancient history from the present tense.
By pausing when your chest tightens and saying, this belongs to the past, the danger is not in this room.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with an incredibly compelling challenge for the days ahead.
It does. If your loudest, most urgent thoughts, your most intense defensive reactions, and your exhausting urges to manage the people around you are actually just the echoes of a childhood survival strategy, what completely new, unscripted choices might you make tomorrow?
That's the real question.
What would happen if, just once, when that specific tone of voice hits, you didn't let the ghost respond? What if you created that tiny gap and allowed the quietest, non-arguing part of yourself to finally take the wheel?
A question definitely worth sitting with the next time the static starts to rise. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.